What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Conversation Station. This episode, I'm going to call it Podcasts and Needohs, simply because those are the two things I'm going to be talking about this episode. Probably won't be any clips from movies or shows in this one, so... Recently, I've noticed more shows have been having podcasts attached to the actual show, straight on through it. Basically, I've been noticing it for a while. I think the first one that I really seen was the Alien Earth podcast, that came with that one. And honestly, at that time, I thought it was kind of cool. But seeing it now and how it's just becoming more prominent with every big show we see is getting its own podcast. It just kind of feels, I don't know, it feels a bit like Hollywood doing what it does and trying to kind of control the narrative of both the show and the actors of what they do afterwards. So much podcasting, we see different actors who've been doing this for a long time, going to, podcasts and not so much spilling all the beans, but they're just kind of telling their experiences of the set and the directors and things like that. A depiction of, such a bad time on the set, and, one of them was, it was just an all-around terrible experience. I think that's one of the reasons why we're going to start seeing these podcasts attached to these shows, is because maybe to try to minimize that. No, I'm not sure if that's the exact reason why, but it just seems it does, when that happens, sometimes fans kind of ask the question in the comments it's should we still be a fan of this stuff, but I still love the movies, because it's hard to separate the bad treatment of the actor from the project, which we view, we love it, and we love the characters, and we become attached to the characters. And just because we know that obviously there's a separation between reality and Hollywood and everything that we see, we still think of the actors as people. So it can leave a sour taste in certain people's mouths when they watch the movie. Now that will happen to majority of the people, but that can't happen to people that just I guess are a little bit more empathetic. Podcasts are cool, and it's cool that it's directly off from the show and you get straight away facts. But obviously it just seems like a more contained setting, a little bit more. I always feel like actors, when they're in, whether it's a podcast or just an interview for their movies and stuff like that, I feel like they obviously kind of stray away from saying bad things about directors and actors, just because you never know who you're going to have to work with or work around in the future. And I feel like you don't want to be seen as sometimes the interviews are a little bit of a chess game of just being careful what you say. But I will say it's just, it does seem odd that it's kind of becoming the norm. Does it feel weird to you that it's so many podcasts are being attached to it? Does it feel like Hollywood's controlling the narrative, or does it feel like more so that they're just trying to get the eyes to the show, get the eyes on Disney Plus or whatever platform the podcasts may be on, just to have more eyes viewing their podcast versus going to YouTube or whatever else to see it? I would love to know, like I said, what you think, or if you have any comments on that. The next thing I'm going to talk about are the Needohs. You may have heard about them at least. They're the little stress balls. They were originally made for kids. The reason I wanted to talk about these things is mainly because their surge in popularity. I worked at Walmart probably 2 years ago, and these things were just, they were laying out, and they were not, honest. I wouldn't say they weren't selling very well, but more often than not, kids were stealing them because the boxes were just so easy. The cat ones and stuff were so easy to just kind of slip out of the box. The box had a cutout hole of the squish so you could feel it through, and kids were just kind of stealing them out of there. But they weren't this super sought after item. Fast forward to just the other day, I'm walking through that same Walmart, and now those Needohs are now in a locked case. You can't get to them unless you ask an associate, which, it's just crazy to me, the time frame. It took only 2 years for whatever reason the internet made it into a trend, and now adults are walking out of Walmart with baskets full of Needohs. I remember stocking these things and just being wow, the more of them get stolen than bought, and it was just, they weren't looked at all. And to go into that Walmart and see that case and see just 4 of them sitting there, and then I hear a couple aisles over, some lady's do you have Needohs? And the lady to unlock it was oh gosh, I don't think so. There's probably none. And she walked her over there and she bought those last ones. But it's just man, it's just kind of crazy. You really never know. You never know what's going to be the next big thing. You never know when that thing is going to take off. And I don't even know what caused it. Was it a TikTok? Was it something online? genuinely don't know where it came from. But it is pretty cool just to see it after all this time, even if it's kind of odd to see the reaction to it. But I would like to know, do you think it's just another crazy fad? Do you think this even is a toy that should be cared about? I mean, honestly, are adults ruining like the children's toy industry? And I know that may seem a little hypocritical being that I have a bunch of comic books, but honestly, some of these comic books are older than me, so I don't know. Netflix also raised their prices again, which honestly, it's just insane. I mean, all these streaming services are just kind of getting out of hand with it. Personally, just bought me the full series of The Umbrella Academy, just because I wanted to have it. Honestly, this is like the only show that I really get Netflix for, so I just figured as long as I have it on hand, I won't really need to have Netflix as much anymore. And I think I'll just start doing that from now on. You know, anything that I think I really need Netflix for, I'll just try to find the DVD online. It's, you know, they got to be out there somewhere. This one came all the way from Georgia, so. But it's still pretty cool to have. I haven't been able to find a complete series like in stores around here. I have some new Venom comics as well as a new Ghost Rider comic as well with like a big old pop out. So I'll be showing that off soon. I also got 2 new Superman comics, which I'll be showing off during my Supergirl trailer review, which I'll have coming soon too. I really do appreciate any time you spent watching my videos. I try to put as much time and effort as I can. I can't put as much money as I'd like to, as maybe as much of these big creators, but I do put a lot of time and effort into this, so I really do appreciate any time you spent watching it. Thank you, and I hope to see you again.